crafts, or just enjoy the beauty of the zoo covered in lights at their annual Holiday Lights event every Friday and Saturday night in December, right up until December 22nd. It's the most wonderful time of year at the Chattanooga Zoo. For ticket pricing and information, go to chatzoo.com.
Celebrate the holidays at the Chattanooga Symphony and Opera's annual family tradition, Home for the Holidays, December 15th and 16th at the Tivoli Theater. Enjoy a concert filled with lively and classic holiday tunes from the most wonderful time of the year, as the CSO is joined by the CSO Chorus, Metropolitan Bells, and guest vocalist Dee Danasco. Pictures with Santa will be part of the festivities. Tickets are available by calling 423-267-8583 or online at chattanoogasymphony.org.
The station you hear everywhere.
Cougar Radio 92.7.
Good morning, beautiful people here in the city of Chattanooga. It's your girl Marie Mott with the Marie Mott Show. Y'all know what it is. We're taking it from the streets to City Hall to the mayor's office. Can't leave out the police department. From the valley low to the mountaintop, give you guys a bird's eye view to what's going on here in the city of Chattanooga. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's another beautiful day here in the city of Chattanooga. And I'm super grateful that we have an opportunity to just be back at the beginning of another week. It's so much that's been going on. And today's topic is going to be pretty heavy, very fast paced. So make sure you not only like today's show, that you share it, because while we have covered here, we broke the story of what happened to Interstate Tax, Mr. Charles Toney. We know that police brutality has happened all throughout the city in various different ways. We know that police favoritism is a problem here in the city of Chattanooga. While it's nothing wrong with police, we're not against good police officers. I think we have to identify the fact that we have a very toxic culture in law enforcement here in the city of Chattanooga, as well in the county. But I think we also have to start digging beyond just excessive force, but that there are other problems that is coming from law enforcement. One thing that me and several other activists have experienced is increased surveillance, whether that is being followed physically by law enforcement, me, Concerned Citizens for Justice, other community activists and organizers, also, as well as even online, those that are very vocal. We have accounts that have been made by the Chattanooga Police Department, fake Facebook accounts, where there's sensitive information. In particular, there was a situation where Mr. Isaiah Moore, who was here on my show several months ago, who is a young man who exited the gang life, turned his life around, is married, at the time was working 2 jobs. He spoke out against police excessive force and information from a sealed case. You would not have access to that unless you work in government. Information about his sealed case and charges and different things against him found its way on social media from this activated Facebook account, which would have given us the impression that it would only be the Chattanooga Police Department that would have access to that, unless it was someone from our criminal court. And so last Friday, Free Speech Friday, is something that young people have come up with as a response to excessive force, police brutality, toxic culture within law enforcement here. We have demands as far as Mr. Toney, which is all charges against him be dropped, the officer be fired immediately from the sheriff's department, which that should have happened. He should not have the ability to beat anyone in handcuffs, have his feet kicked up, and be receiving any sort of pay. He should have been fired immediately. It is not too late for the sheriff to do that. Mr. Hammond, you need to fire that man. I wouldn't care if he was white, black, female, male. I wouldn't care. Anytime you beat someone who's unarmed, hands tied behind the back, you've done the wrong thing. And you need to be held accountable for that. And how do we have law enforcement that holds the people accountable? We cannot do that to law enforcement. And so we, the young people,
the young people, I'm talking about people under 30. We packed the courthouse. They let people out. Yeah, I'm going to tell the story this morning. They let people out at the courthouse early because we had made it public that we were going to go down there and make our demands and protest. And so people were leaving the courthouse and the sheriff's department as early as 3:30, 3:35, and intentionally had locked the doors before 4 o'clock on the sheriff's side so we could not come in. And by the time 4 o'clock rolled around, they had locked the doors on the Cherry Street entrance side to not let people in, as an attempt to silence the young people who have taken up this fight to ensure that even though Mr. Tony was an African-American male, that this does not happen to anyone. I don't care what color you are. You don't deserve to be beaten in handcuffs, period. Absolutely unacceptable. And if you would not want that to happen to your mom, your grandma, your son, your daughter, your children, your cousins, anybody you love and care about, then it's time for people to put aside petty differences. And I need to see the whole video. No, you do not. This one particular action is enough to see. There's nothing further except this one action was unacceptable. And the even more unacceptable part is this silent complicitness of which Dr. Martin Luther King talked about. A lot of people are going to fake celebrate him in the next coming weeks, acting like they love a man that was intentionally assassinated by the United States government, who was one of the most passive leaders that we've ever had, who did passive acts such as boycotts, the most passive act that you could do. And so I had to get on and talk about while we were organizing this and while we were even going through this cowardly act of leadership and government and politicians here in the city. That morning, a man by the name of David Bullock died in police custody. And I was frustrated when I found out the very next morning, early in the morning. It's been so difficult for me to sleep. I found out that this man died in police custody and was arrested on just public intoxication charges and petty theft. And what I began to discover is that it's not just excessive force that is a problem, but there's a myriad of issues that come from law enforcement, and we got to start picking this apart. And we have to change what we think about other people. We have to begin to change what we think about mental health. We have to change what we think about criminality in the United States of America. 800-8949 if you want to call and chop it up with me. But it's time for us to have these real conversations that start digging beyond the surface about what we think we know about law and order, what we think we know about criminality, what we think we know about mental health, what we think we know about people of color, what we think we know about the injustice system, what we think we know about prisons, what we think we know about police. And we have to be intentional in educating ourselves so we can begin to get to the root of our problem or problems, because they are multifaceted. Complaining is the easy thing to do in life. The hardest thing to do is figure out how you're going to solve the problems that you're facing. So let's start off by what we think we know about crime. Let's get into it. And so this is from Pew Research. Y'all know what I do. I'm intentional. So if you want to, I'm going to share the links to this if you want to go back and look at this later. But Pew Research, 5 facts about crime in the U.S. and why we have to change what we think about crime. Number 1 being violent crime in the U.S. has fallen sharply over the past quarter century. The 2 most commonly cited sources of crime statistics in the U.S. both show a substantial decline in the violent crime rate since it peaked in the early 1990s. One is an annual report by the FBI of serious crimes reported to police in approximately 18,000 jurisdictions across the country. The other is an annual survey of more than 90,000 households conducted by the Bureau of Justice Statistics, which ask Americans ages 12 and older whether they are victims of crime, regardless of whether they reported the crimes or not. You guys following me so far? Using the FBI numbers, the violent crime rate fell 48%. These are double digits, folks. The violent crime rate fell 48% between 1993 and 2016. Using the BGS data, the rate fell 74% during that span. Y'all follow me so far? It is important to note that the FBI reported a 7% increase in violent crime rate between 2014 and 16, including a 20% rise in murder rate from 4.4 to 5.3 per 100,000 residents. However, it does not show an increase in violent crime rate between the 2014 and 16, but they do not count murders. The BGS figures for 2016 also reflect a survey redesign, making it difficult to compare directly to prior years. Property crime rate. Number 2, property crime rate has declined significantly over the long term. Like the violent crime rate, the U.S. property crime rate today is far below its peak level. FBI data shows that it fell between 48% to 1993 and 2016. BGS shows 66% decline during that span. So not only is violent crime going down, property crime has gone down. Let's keep talking. Number 3, Lena Willis, I don't know what you're posting on the Nuga Radio 92.7 FM page, but it's not showing any words or anything, so you might want to try again. Public perceptions about crime in the U.S. do not align with the raw data. What this means is we don't believe as a society that crime is going down. But part of that has to do with our politicians, right? We're consistently preached and scared every single day that we turn on the news, we turn on the television. We have crime put right in our face. But the reality from the data shows that crime is going down. And so will we continue to want to participate in a war on poverty, war on drugs, a tough on crime situation if we honestly believe that crime was going down? And understand that crime is not going down because we're locking up people. Hello, somebody. Crime is not going down because we're locking up people. Let's keep going. In a survey in 2016, 57% of registered voters said crime in the U.S. had gotten worse since 2008, even though the FBI and BJS data shows double-digit declines. Double-digit declines. So while the raw data from the Bureau of Justice Statistics and the FBI shows double-digit declines, 57% of registered voters firmly believe that crime in the United States has gotten worse. While perceptions of rising crime at the national level are common, fewer Americans tend to say crime is up when asked about the local level. Number 4, there are large geographic variations in crime rates, right? So depending upon where you live, there may be excess murder. And we see this if we break down at a local level, crimes in African-American neighborhoods that are extremely impoverished. Most of them are either A, domestic, or B, they have something to do with a nonviolent crime, meaning that somebody got locked up for maybe drugs or theft, a simple theft. As opposed to if you look at the data of our white counterparts in areas that are predominantly white, you see one of the most heinous crimes in those areas is not domestic, it's not even theft or nonviolent crimes, it's actually rape. So we even see this breakdown if we look at data sets for tracts here in the city of Chattanooga, where the crime is different depending upon the people and the poverty level, right? So there's no reason for people in areas where there is more concentrated wealth. There's no reason for people to steal. But that doesn't mean that they don't have crime. As a matter of fact, the rape in areas that are not African American or Hispanic is usually about 5 to 1. That is the most heinous crime in wealthier communities is rape. Something for people to think about. And I can prove what I'm saying. Most crimes are not reported to police, and most reported crimes are not solved. So Glenn Scruggs, Assistant Police Chief Glenn Scruggs, even though he loves talking and putting data sets on people's posts, when we talk about the Chattanooga Police Department, understand the majority of crimes are not solved by the Chattanooga Police Department. The majority of these crimes are solved with the participation of people who are working with the police, but they're not solved by the police. In its annual survey, BJS asked victims of crime whether they reported the crime to police. In 2016, only 42% of violent crimes were tracked by the BJS was reported to police. Y'all get that? And in much more common category of property crime, only about a third, 36%, was reported. There were a variety of reasons why the crime was reported, but the most consistent feeling was that police would not or could not do anything to help, or that crime is a personal issue too trivial to report. So the first thing we just got to go on ahead and knock out of the park is our perception on criminality is all wrong. Crime is going down in every area. So when you have politicians from a national level to a state level to a county to municipal level who feed you these ideologies about thank you. I didn't know the volume was down. These ideologies about crime, I think we need to understand there's a reason to do that. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Talk to me.
Hey, Marie, there's money in crime. The CCA was created in '83. Can you imagine a profit making? I asked my other half this. If you owned a prison, what would you do to increase your profits as a corporation? She says, well, pass more laws. It's ridiculous that anyone gets arrested for drinking. And here's the problem, and it's not all Sheriff Hammond. Mental issues need to be addressed. And instead of spending $10 million on a stupid park, we should have a mental facility to handle the issue of drugs and alcohol. Not government. They need to ensure that a private company bids it, and a private company that's successful, not government, runs it, and they get paid based on their results. So the more people that come clean, there's a reward in there for them. But instead of wasting $10 million on a park, and Sheriff Hammond will tell you, his hands are tied. I had somebody steal from me, my company, years ago, and I suggested, they go to rehab or some sort of program to help them. You know what they told me? Mm-hmm. They wanted to give her 15 years in jail. We just punish. We don't rehabilitate. I said, it's obvious this woman needs rehabilitation. When she gets out, you're going to send her to jail for 2.5 years. She's going to be a better cook. Because listen, Marie, if we have no crime, lawyers and judges and not sheriffs, but lawyers and judges in the system goes away.
It collapses.
This line, what?
I said it collapses, the whole scheme.
It's a scam. We have people with mental issues out there. We need to address this. People, they get a broken arm. Oh, you have a broken arm. I'm sorry. But they don't want to understand that there are people that are dealing with issues bigger than themselves, and we need to have facilities to care for those people, not throw them in jail. What the hell are we? In 15th century England? Come on. You can tell why we're going to the moon, we're going to Mars, we're going here, and we're not taking care of people who need to be taken care of. You know what? We will be judged as a nation by the way we take care of the helpless, the unborn, the elderly. That's how we're going to be judged, not by having 10 cars, not by having 15 televisions, not by putting in a $10 million park. We need to get our head straight in this republic, or we won't have it.
Thank you so much for your comments. So here's something to look at. right? When we talk, especially when we talk about mental health. The biggest savings, and I know for the system, it's all about dollars. For the people, it's about people. But for the system, it's about dollars. Listen to this. It's difficult to estimate exactly how much diversion programs can save communities, but incarceration is a costly alternative compared to community-based treatment. For example, in Detroit, an inmate with a mental illness can cost the jail $31,000 a year, while community-based mental health treatment costs only $10,000 a year. And this statistic comes from NAMI. And so, folks, like, we have to understand, especially in particular for people who have mental health issues, and we're going to continue to go into that because that's going to tie into how people are treated in prison. And I'm going to start getting into that. The differences between white and black. We're actually at a 10-year high here in these United States. And it's kind of hard. It was kind of hard really doing prep for this show because a lot of the data ends at 2016. So it's not really up until this point. But there are more people who die in police custody that are killed by a police officer. Right? And the majority of those deaths, this is very important, and I'm going to have to do a separate show about this. The majority of those deaths are a result of excessive force prior to them being taken to the jail. You heard what I said? The majority of deaths in police custody are because of excessive force. We got to change not only what we think about criminality, but how we treat people. Stay tuned for the second half of the segment.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. Now.
The sheriff's office releasing a statement regarding a jail inmate who died after suffering from difficulty breathing. In the statement, it started at 3:30 in the morning when inmate David Bullock was rushed to the hospital. By 5:05, he was pronounced dead. Bullock was in jail on charges of public intoxication and theft of property. The exact cause of death will be determined in an autopsy. Another earthquake in Tennessee, this time near Knoxville. It happened late Saturday night. A 3.0 magnitude rattled residents of northeast Knoxville. This is the third reported earthquake in East Tennessee in the last few days. And wreaths across America held its annual holiday ceremony on Saturday despite the nasty weather. With the help of the local Civil Air Patrol, just about 10,000 wreaths were laid on headstones at the Chattanooga National Cemetery. Other organizations and volunteers pitched in to help decorate the grave markers. Val St. John for Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Hey folks, Jeff Stiles here, talk radio host and infamous technophobe. But I got to tell you, this Facebook Live that Nooga Radio does, it makes sense to me. It really does. Now, we're at 92.7 on the FM dial, but really where you need to go is NoogaRadio.com and just do the streaming audio, 8 to 10 a.m. The first hour is mostly just me just throwing commentary in on top of the news. The second hour is me frustrating and irritating you beyond all belief. NoogaRadio.com. Don't miss it. Every weekday.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, TradeBank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation. 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga roofing contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Hey, you! Yeah, you! This is your sandwich speaking. Yeah, your sandwich. And you know, you can't find me any place but the Mad Philly Sandwich Shop. Mad Philly Sandwich Shop, just off 153 on Shaliford Road. It's in the Little Plaza. Hey, check out these buns. Yeah, they're Amorosa, all the way from Philly. So bite me. You want a real Philly cheesesteak? Check out my meat. Throw some cheese on it and grilled onions. Oh, yeah. Now that's what I'm talking about. Only at the Mad Philly Sandwich Shop, where you'll always get the real taste of a Philadelphia cheesesteak. Plus hoagies, burgers, sandwiches, salads, fresh cut fries, tater tots, and other stuff. Mad Philly Sandwich Shop, just off 153 on Shaliford Road, right across from Mountain View Service Center. It's in the Little Plaza. Hey, come on, we're waiting for you here. So just shut up and eat it.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
It's been lots of sunshine and nice weather out there for your afternoon. High settling into the mid-50s. Tonight, clear, cold, lows near freezing. Some more patchy late fog. For Tuesday, mostly sunny, highs near 55. Increasing clouds Wednesday, highs into the 50s with a few showers returning Wednesday night. Get ready for Christmas and Old Man Winter with Dodge City Ski Shop, featuring the largest selection of cold weather clothing around. From long underwear, wool socks, and Columbia jackets, Dodge City, East Raynard Road, Chattanooga. And I'm Swarm Machine 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
The radio 92.7.
Oh, some people don't like what I have to say, but you know what you can't fight? Information, data, facts. Come on. The statistics all over the place show that crime has gone down. So why are we holding on to law and order so tightly, knowing that the majority of us know at least one person in our life who has been arrested? Isn't that terrible? That there's probably not one family out there that has not had at least one person in their life that has been arrested. We have to change what we think about criminality and our injustice system, because our perceptions is what fuels our belief in this system, which is not in any of our best interests. And the moment we decide to tear these systems down, guess who's really going to be the ones who are out of a job and out of the niceties of life? And that's going to be the judges, the lawyers, right? Come on. Y'all don't want me to be real. Crime has declined by 56% for violent crimes, 47% for property crimes. You know, it takes a little time for us to learn our lesson. I think, in particular, when I talk about my community, I think we learned our lesson when we saw the war on drugs and how for nonviolent offenses, we saw our fathers and our uncles locked up sometimes for 40, 50, 60 years or a life sentence over one encounter with law enforcement, which destabilized an entire generation of children who were raised without fathers. So I think it only takes a little bit of time. You know, humans are a little slow to learn, but we learn. I think in some ways we learn. And I think we learned our lesson. And one of the things that my programmer and his wife actually told me, which I hope I can look this up when I go to the museum, the majority of crimes up until about the 80s wasn't crimes that were with African-American people. They were with our white brothers and sisters. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Talk to me.
Hi, Marie. This is Raghavati.
Hey.
Hey, I am just calling to talk about the for-profit prison system and how I think that is such a huge factor with what we're dealing with. And then also, I don't know, I'm just in agreement. I think we need to really look at dismantling the way that law enforcement is being run and disarming these guys. And I know it's kind of radical, but a lot of people, a lot of other countries in the world have disarmed their police and have people like, weapons specialists come in for requiring that type of force. But I think they have run too far and too hard. And I'm tired of the police brutality. So I just want to talk about that and just appreciate you for doing all the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying my best, but it's going to take all of us, right? Everybody's got to get in on these conversations, and everybody hands have got to be pulling some sort of work along. We all have to get involved in this, because I don't think anybody, unless you're living in unless you're just like so super wealthy, nothing ever happens to you. For the majority of Americans, no matter what color you are impacted by this. You are impacted by this system. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Talk to me.
Hey. Hi. I know my call dropped, but yeah, I agree. It's going to take all of us, and you certainly shouldn't have to bear so much of the brunt of it. And I'm concerned for your safety and all of those things, and I don't know. Just want to talk to you about it and let you know you have support out here.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. But nobody has to be concerned for my safety. Number one, because with the exception of going into federal buildings and you can't go to the city council packing. Most times I'm packing. Right. But the other thing is that nobody has to worry about my safety if more people get involved in doing this work. It gets hard to single people out if the community is stepping up, being intentional about changing what we see happening in front of our very eyes. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Chris. Talk to the people.
Yeah, one thing that we need to do is we need to make sure we stay informed. There's one thing right now that we're not being told as a whole is in the next couple years, the county wants to lock us into a contract with Core Civic for 100 years. And if they do so, I believe that we'll see the injustices that we've been seeing in the departments, because like you said, it's not just one municipality or one department. I think that will get worse.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris.
So I just want people to know that our county is gearing to lock us into a 100-year contract.
And thank you so much, Christopher Dahl, for your comments. And folks, understand when we talk about the county, for all of those folks out there who love talking crazy to African-American people when we stand up for our rights and we fight back against this system, you know why we do this stuff? We do it for our people. But you know why we kind of do this stuff? So it makes it easier that it doesn't happen to you, right? Angela Davis said, man, if they come for me in the night, they're coming for you in the morning. And it's more white people in this county, right, than it is African Americans in this county. I think we make up 12% of this county. So if the county goes into a 100-year contract with CCA Silverdale, who is going to be the majority of people that they're going to eventually funnel into prisons? It's going to be our white brothers and sisters. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So for now, you may be okay, but that's temporary. That's temporary. They're eventually going to come for you too. And I know how poor the state of Tennessee is. We are a poor state, right? I know the majority of our state is rural. I know that the majority of hospitals that have closed in our state have been in rural areas. Rural people are suffering too. I know this. And we do this fight. We do this work in the inner city, making it easier and creating an easier avenue for justice for people who we don't even talk to, people we don't even see, people we don't even hear from. And some of us are so wrapped up in political parties and ideologies, we don't even see what's right in front of us. And how many people know that that's on the table? A 100-year contract with CCA Silverdale, which I'm sure is going to come with what is already with mandatory minimums of prisoners that have to be swept into. So do we understand what that encourages? That encourages police officers to surveil people. Well, we already see this already? What is it? I think we have 39 cameras all across the city of Chattanooga surveilling the free people in this country, watching you. Now, nobody is policing the police, and they're running rampant all over this city, but they're watching you. Come on. Police custody deaths have hit their highest level in a decade. In a decade. In a decade. Police custody deaths have hit their highest level that they have within a decade. The problem with police brutality and police culture is not getting better, folks. It's getting worse. I have never seen as much as we've had just in 2018. I have never seen as many police officers and even sheriff deputies in our headlines from crime. I'm talking about violent crimes, rape. I mean, we have police officers that are serial rapists, such as Desmond Logan, who we just found out after, I believe, 4 women came forward during the summertime against him. And though our police chief said nobody had ever came forward, we found out that that was a lie. The police chief was never fired for lying to try to cover up what happened. The mayor did not reprimand him for lying in front of the cameras. He did not. He was not placed on administrative leave without pay for lying about what happened to real people. But then we found out, I believe a week ago, Desmond Logan raped a young lady while being a campus police at UTC. I'm sorry, 5 people. You're a serial rapist. And you're doing this with police power, privileges, and a badge. And the interesting thing in that story in particular was the officer, which as a matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about this in just a moment. The officer who stated that women had came forward as early as 2015 asked to remain anonymous because they were afraid of retaliation. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Talk to me.
Good morning. So I've been listening to you, and there's a couple big.
Hold on one second, sir. Like you're breaking up really, really bad.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, sir. That's better.
Awesome. So I'm listening to you. There's a couple of big things I think we absolutely need everywhere. Number one, I think we absolutely need all police officers wearing body cams. And if they attempt to take police action without having that body camera on, there needs to be a suspension, mandatory punishment for not doing it. They need to be held accountable. Second thing is, with for-profit prisons, I think we need to scrap the whole system and start over. I think for-profit prisons could work if the payment reward for these for-profit prisons was, instead of paying them more for having more people incarcerated, if we gave them bonuses based on people not reoffending once they left. And that was how they made their extra money.
Well, there's no way that would work, because the thing that people have discovered, in particular in a documentary that I watched about us locking, we just don't lock up. And I think we forget this a lot. We don't just lock up more adults than any other country in the world. We lock up more children than any other country in the world, more juveniles. And one of the things that people learn by congregating with other people in jail is they learn behaviors that they never would have learned on the street. So unfortunately, it's still not going to work. right? It's still not going to work until we do away with prisons pretty much completely. And we get back to a point where the community is responsible for its people in it. And what I mean by that is we are responsible for one another. So when we see somebody stealing, we're not going to call the police on them. We're going to go to their house and see how they're living. And if we figure out that they don't have food in the house, see, this is what we used to do. And I mean, I saw the last remnants of this being a child who was born at the end of the 80s, grew up at the early 90s. My grandmother didn't have much. My grandfather died when my dad was like 16 years old. And when he was a young person. So she had lived the majority of her life never working. Right? Never working, just managing property. And still with the little money she had, the little money she had, she would send plates down the street. Make sure people were okay. Until we get back to a point where community takes care of one another. We don't call the police on one another. If folks don't have food, everybody in the neighborhood chips in. And if everybody in the neighborhood is hungry, okay, so maybe we start doing community dinners every week, every day. Community dinners. You bring the bread. I got the hot sauce, mustard, and coleslaw. Come on. You got the soda. You bring the cups and the silverware. You got the oil. I got the pots and pans. And we feed one another every week. And one person is just responsible for bringing that one thing. And we got food. Until we get back to community, the community handles and treats one another and takes care of one another. Until we understand that if people don't have any furniture, well, where's the person in the community that has a truck? I'm just thinking of all stuff off the top of my head. Who's the person in the community that has a truck? Okay, we got that guy. Well, Sister Lulu is having to go and steal stuff from Walmart so she could sell it, so she could try to get furniture, so her children can have beds and mattresses to sleep on. Okay, well, what we do is we get the person in the community that has a truck, who links with the young person who knows how to use Craigslist. And then we see that maybe somebody has put a nice bed set severely marked down, and the community comes up with the money. Or maybe we barter. We hit up the seller and see if we can barter something for that need. We go and pick it up as a community and we give it to this person. And we did that with one another. Until the community restores, and this is what Christianity, or being a Christian, is all about. Is that we restore one another. And we're not depending on systems to do this. The community restores one another. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Talk to me.
Hey, anonymous caller here. Just wanted to say thank you to you and Mr. Toulis for not only breaking Charles Tony's story, but for sticking with it and telling the truth in spite of everything going on in the city. Keep up the awesome work.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. So let's read this. Because I want people to understand something. I want people to understand that the more that we refuse to take responsibility for as a people, the more problems we're going to have. The reason that we have systems that are out of control is because we've given over our power to these systems and we've created them in the first place. You know, as much as the funny thing is it's even funny talking to people who consider themselves Christians, because I continually ask people, what do we do in a world, in a Bible that I read, that we didn't have prisons? We didn't have prisons. We didn't see prisons until we get to the New Testament with the Romans. We didn't have prison systems. It was the Romans who introduced prisons and police brutality and state-sanctioned violence to us. We didn't have that prior to. What we had was communal grace and mercy and looking after one another. And until we get back to that, these systems will always, and I do mean always exist. What did we do in the 17th century and 1700s and all the way up until the mid 1800s, where we did not have municipal officers? All we had was the sheriff or the sharif and the temporary constable. We only had in the 1700s, we only had 3 felonies, of which the sad part is most of everybody is complicit in. Do you know that according to the Constitution, it is punishable by death to have fiat currency that is not exchangeable for silver? Y'all don't believe me. That's okay. So we have to identify our problems, and identifying police problems are based on where you live. There are a range of police problems. Tell me if this doesn't sound like Chattanooga Police Department and even our Hamilton County Sheriff. Excessive use of deadly force. Excessive use of physical force. Discriminatory patterns of arrest. Patterns of harassment of homeless, of youth, racial minorities, and LGBTQ plus, including aggressive and discriminatory use of stop and frisk, and overly harsh enforcement of petty offensive, of which this man was arrested who died in police custody. Public intoxication is not a serious crime, folks. Neither is petty theft. Take the man to the hospital, right? And write him a ticket. Why not? Let him get help, get sober. Chronic verbal abuse of citizens, including racist, sexist, or homophobic slurs. Discriminatory non-enforcement of the law, such as failure to respond quickly to calls in low-income areas and half-hearted investigations of domestic violence, rape, or crime. Spying on political activists. Employment discrimination in hiring, promotion, assignments, and internal harassment of minority, women, or gay or lesbian police personnel. The code of silence and retaliation against officers who report abuse or support drastic reforms. Overreaction to gang problems, which is driven by the assumption that those who associate with known gang members must be involved in criminal activity. The war on drugs. I'm sorry, but does that just not look like every one of those touch on local law enforcement? I never have enough time. Y'all got to demand my station to give me another hour on the radio so I can start dealing with this stuff. Come on now. Y'all know what it is. It's Marie Mott with the Marie Mott Show. If no one has taken the time today to tell you that they love you, just know that I love you. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about that.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
The sheriff's office releasing a statement regarding a jail inmate who died after suffering from difficulty breathing. In the statement, it started at 3:30 in the morning when inmate David Bullock was rushed to the hospital. By 5:05, he was pronounced dead. Bullock was in jail on charges of public intoxication and theft of property. The exact cause of death will be determined in an autopsy. Another earthquake in Tennessee, this time near Knoxville. It happened late Saturday night. A 3.0 magnitude rattled residents of northeast Knoxville. This is the third reported earthquake in East Tennessee